Hey friends, are you familiar with the most trusted business network for business executives? It's the C-Suite network. If you're a business of $5 million or greater, and if you're a VP level or higher, then you're invited to join the C-Suite network to connect with your business peers. Go to csuitenetwork.com, that's a C-suitenetwork.com, to learn more about the benefits, meetings, and services exclusive for C-Suite executives like you. Okay, let's do the show. It's time to accelerate. Hey friends, this is Andy. Welcome to episode 467 of Accelerate, where I hold in-depth conversations with today's leading experts in sales, marketing, and leadership 6 days a week. Hey, a couple of quick items before we meet today's guest, who's Michael FitzGerald. Michael's the CEO of OnePage CRM. Now, if you like this show, it'd really help me out if you subscribed and left a review. I mean, you can do all this with the podcast app on your phone you're using to listen to this podcast. Actually, if you go ahead, hit pause, and subscribe, leave a quick review, and then come right back. I'll be waiting for you. Now, one of the toughest jobs in sales is hiring salespeople and getting it right. It's so important because the cost of getting it wrong can be damaging in terms of lost time and lost opportunities. So to help you get it right, I've created a guide to hiring the right sales candidates for your company. It's called How to Hire a Winning Sales Team. The Sales Leader's 5-step guide to better sales hiring. And best of all, it's free. Just go to accelerate.fm/winning to download your free guide to hiring a winning sales team. Again, that's accelerate.fm/winning to get your free copy today. All right, again, I'm excited to be joined on the show today by Michael FitzGerald. You know, there are no shortage of CRM systems available to sales teams. And I asked Michael to join me on the show today because his company's offering, OnePage CRM, comes at the task from a really different perspective. It's all about getting things done. It's not just a repository of data. I mean, think about that for a second. Getting things done. It forces the user to think a little differently and a little deeper about stage migration, about what needs to happen in order to accomplish the task you have. So we're going to jump into that. Michael, welcome to Accelerate.
Thank you very much, Andy. And greetings from Ireland.
Yeah, greetings from Ireland, and you're I'm making you stay up late to do this, so thank you very much.
No problem. We're a small company. We work hard, and it's not a big deal. We support the US up to close of business in San Francisco time. So
excellent. Okay,
we're available.
Excellent. All right. So, but I take it you're not answering the customer success calls yourself, or are you?
No. But there is one thing that I do that I find it interesting, and I don't see many other companies do it. But in our free trial, I have an automated email that comes directly from me. It's just a plain text email, and I tell them that I'm the product person in the company as well as leading it. But if they have any small issues that really bothers them, that they don't kind of contact support about it because they can get by, but it bothers them, to reply to me, and I will reply back to them. And I admit that it's an automated email on the way out, but I will give them a personal reply. So it takes a little bit of time every week to do it, but it keeps me in touch with our customers.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. So what was the impetus to start OnePage CRM? I mean, what was the hole in the market you were trying to fill? Because, as I said in the previews, you've taken a very different approach to this task.
Yeah, I've been a GTD fan for a long time. And
so
I
getting just so people know, GTD is Getting Things Done, which is a classic book by David Allen about personal productivity.
Yeah. Yes, I mean it's used for task management and project management, and it's quite successful in that area. And it's really good about knowing what to be comfortable about what you're doing and not be worried about what you're not doing at the time. So it's it focuses in on that. What is that actions you should be doing today or just right now? And we just thought the same thing could be applied to sales, because I've always seen sales as a very kind of sequential set of tasks. Not you can't kind of just grab a bunch of stuff and do it ahead before you even contact the prospect, or you can't kind of plan too far ahead because there could be objections, or the timing could be wrong. Mm-hmm. So we just thought about it then it suits very much the philosophy of GTD, where it's just focus on that one next action to keep the sale pushing forward. And so we created a system that was very proactive, and what it does is I suppose it's a little bit like taking what Twitter was at the time. It was kind of very popular at the time, and it was this 140 characters. So I just said, okay, just force people into saying in 140 characters, what is that one next action, and it allow them to put a date to it. And so you have this stream of next actions and your context. They float to the top when action is required. And basically, after completing an action, you're in a very good position to actually, to decide right there and then an upfront decision about what is the next action. And you set that again. And so basically, it goes down and the time passes and it floats to the top again and turns red when action is required. So we kind of trap your prospects in this perpetual loop of always having a next action until you either get the client over the line or you just can't make the sale, whatever it is. But at least you've given it a very, very honest effort, and you've always been proactive about what is the next step of taking the sale forward. So we see other CRM systems maybe, and they're good and good design and everything like that, but a lot of them are just databases, and some of them are reactive, as in they might just prompt you to say, hey, maybe you want to reach out to this contact. You haven't contacted them in a long time. But we always take the approach about being very much proactive. It just keeps you, in a good decision making to do with your prospects all the time, and you just never get to drop the ball, because a lot of us, we do a simple sales action. We send an estimate, we do some research, and we give them information. We educate them about a product, and then just after doing that one physical sales action, we walk and we just go on to another prospect. And just at that moment, you might have dropped the ball. They might need just, another phone call 2 days later. They might need, just another reach out or whatever it is to keep the sale moving forward. And, so we try to stay very much proactive. And that's what I think sets us apart.
Yeah, well, I think that's, when you think about it from a selling perspective, is that if you're a sales rep and you're in the field or on the phone and you're talking to a prospect, or you take some physical action, as you talk about, as David Allen talks about in his book, is that action has to generate a reaction of some sort on the part of the prospect, which is going to mean there's another action, right? You're not sending them something just for the heck of sending them something. If you're doing that, why are you doing that? Right? If you're not sending the prospect or communicating something of value to the prospect that enables them to move forward in their buying process, then you are wasting their time. You're wasting your time.
And your own time as well, yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's to me, this is one of the things that sort of attracted me as I was starting learning about OnePage CRM, because as I mentioned before we came on the air, as you and I talked about, is in my second book, Amp Up Your Sales, I have a section there talking about David Allen, this concept of the very next physical action is you should know what that is at all points in time with your prospects. What is the very next physical action that you're going to need to take? Yeah, and
when you're dealing with if you've got somebody who's dealing with, say, lots of leads, and they have to qualify them, and then they're trying to nurture some other prospects, you can get bogged down. And if you're kind of faced and you look in your database and you've kind of say, okay, I better research this prospect before I reach out to them or whatever I need to do. That is a time waste as well. There's lots of productivity principles where you would say you only handle a piece of information once and you make a decision. You have to, don't read it and leave it down without taking on an action. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've built in as well. So when you complete the task, we say to you, what is that next action? Because you've got the information fresh in your mind to be able to make that decision better. And I would say that, you're dealing with people if that person was maybe angry in some way, you are in the best position now to make the right decision about what is the next step. Or if they were, you're contacting them too much, and the last thing you want is one of your colleagues just picking up, from where you left off and being insensitive about it. You can make all the decisions way better right at the time of the last physical interaction. So that's what we believe anyway.
Yeah, well, and I agree. I think that, again, for reps, and anybody in a sales professional that deals with the customers, is if you communicate something of value to the prospect, you do it with the anticipation that they're going to do something in return. And that means that you have to do something in response to what they're doing. It's just, one of my frustrations I oftentimes have when I'm working with, reps or even managers, it's like they don't think it that many steps ahead, right? It's just, well, I'm going to do this because this is sort of part of our cadence right now. We send out this email. Well, yeah, but what's the purpose of that email? What do you expect the rep to do or the prospect to do in reaction to receiving it? And yeah, that's why I think your tool's sort of interesting, is you can sort of line that up and say, okay, I just sent this email. They're going to read it. What's their action going to be that I need? So what's that mean in terms of the next step I'm going to take with them? And you put that in.
Yeah, no, that's a great way of looking at it too, because you have to try and you're preempting what will the direction. I mean, like if you send something by snail mail, you have to allow for a little bit longer, because maybe by the time it gets there, if you send something by email, you're making all those things. You're trying to predict, okay, what's the scenario at the other side, and I'm creating the next action based on that.
Yeah. Well, very, very interesting. So I sort of walk through a little bit of the system, because you've got, I guess you call it your next action system, which again is a nice clear cut name. But before we do that, sort of who are you targeting the system for? I mean, who's sort of the ideal client profile of one of your customers?
Yeah, so I mean, like it started off. Its DNA started originally. I think we mentioned it in our chat before going on air about it's kind of focused at sales by business owner. That was for some very small companies that I thought wasn't being addressed. I mean, like when I did look at the CRM systems that were out there, a lot of them were based on kind of charts and graphs. That was the main dashboard. When you logged in, you were hit with charts and graphs. And charts and graphs don't actually help you sell. They don't help you make decisions on that one next action with each customer. It's because a lot of CRM systems are dictated from management and marketing, and that's the metrics that they want usually come from those dashboards. But by the time you extrapolate back what it takes to produce those metrics, you get with a very bloated system on the other side that's used by the salesperson. So we try to say start with the salesperson and then work it the other way. And that has been kind of like nearly almost a painful journey for us, because we started with just salesperson, not even thinking about the sales manager or even marketing people or whatever. It's so the information that goes in, we have to be very smart with it. We have to be able to give the management if they do need it, but without kind of being overburdening on the salesperson. So if there's anybody going to suffer with our system, it's not going to be the salesperson. I am the guardian of the salesperson in our app, because we could just start, we could just start lashing in all the fields and the features and everything like that, and then salesperson just stops using it. And that's the last thing you want, because then you're not going to get your metrics anyway. If you're management or if you're in marketing, or if you're in certain kind of, if you're running your stats in your database, there's no point if your people are not using it anyway. So I'm the champion of the salesperson in our company, and I always will be. I don't want, my mum used to say to me when I was a kid, I was the youngest of 7, and she would say, "Oh, give that job to Michael, because he's going to find an easy way out." So I think I've got this slightly built-in bit of laziness that if you give me something, I will say, okay, maybe there's a smarter way of doing this. And so I've hated data entry. I've hated if I have to repeat myself in any task. So what is the slimmest way we can do this? And so the two things we have on our wall for our system, building it and what guides us, is that I've always strived that our system should be as easy to use as email, but it should try and approach zero admin. And that's for the salesperson. And I'm not saying that there's no administration, but we should try and always approach zero admin. If a click can be taken out, we only have one button in our system that says add a contact. And some people that are not used to our system will kind of say, well, where's the organization button where I can add an organization? Once you're adding a contact and you just type into the organization field or the company field, we create a company entity in the back end. And then you can add more rich information to the company if you want to. But lots of times at the very start, you're building up information on just one contact that you've got in the company. And then you might find out somebody else, and you're getting closer and closer to the decision maker, and you can build up, maybe you've got 3 or 4 contacts at this stage. But if you find out very shortly that, this is the wrong prospect, they're not going to buy, there's a mismatch or whatever like that, at least you haven't started this whole data entry, like we would see it as a pyramid where you start at the top and you've got the account, and within the account you start adding companies, and within the companies you start adding these contacts, and you're building this pyramid of information all the way down. We start at the bottom with just a contact, and then you can build up the way if you want to. If it ends up being, yes, it's the proper prospect, or we're on the correct path, we can continue. It's terrible if somebody has to put in all this information just to get going with that first initial person that they're reaching out to. So we try and build information on your prospect in the right direction. So we don't start with admin heavy. We start with, okay, all you have is the company name. We don't, so if you go to add it in our system, you just put in the company name, and your next action is find the contact that deals with the procurement, or find the decision maker, and you go off and you do that, and eventually you find them on the internet, and whatever, you look on LinkedIn, or you do your research, and you can build from that. And nobody asked you, your system doesn't force you to do anything big. You just put in a company name and the next action, get the decision maker. And we can do that with, almost in seconds. So we, and the user shouldn't have to think. So it's a bit like, the stuff that the books that we have in our office, that we try and encourage any employee that starts with us. We have Don't Make Me Think, which is one of the famous web usability books. We have Delivering Happiness, about customer service, GTD, Getting Things Done by David Allen. And once you read those 3 books, you can nearly feel where we're coming from. So we try to give good customer support, getting things done, and the whole philosophy about how we even run our own business, and the trusted systems that David Allen always describes about the people around you, and the system that electronic systems, paper systems, and people systems, that they're all trusted, and we run it from that. But also then this book, Don't Make Me Think, which is from a usability point of view, we think it's huge. We've got such a competitive market. You said it at the start of the show. If our product is not right, we're dead in the water. It doesn't make a difference how, value or pricing or customer, if you have good customer support, if your product is not right, we're in trouble. So we're always looking at take away friction, take away extra administration, and just focus on, for the user, the sales aspects, which is, sales actions and simple, data entry, and that's what's kind of guided us all along.
Well, you use the word, you're reading the book about, don't make me think, but I sort of listen to that and think, okay, well, getting things done requires some thought, but what you're doing is saying, look, we're taking the thinking out of the system part of it, so you really have time to think about what you have to do next, and not because that really is important. And you have sort of some interesting tips you talk about for creating action items. I thought was interesting, which again are very simple, but get people thinking in more concrete terms about what the next physical action is.
Yeah, there's one comparison I would make from a usability point of view of a system like a piece of software and a sale, and that is always to reduce the number of questions in people's heads. So if you're meeting a prospect, if you can reduce the number of questions in their head, as they're kind of thinking, my God, is this a reputable company? Is the product suitable for us? Is it expensive? I wonder, is there many of my peers using this system, or is there companies like us? They have a huge amount of questions in their head. And so that could be seen as don't make me think. Don't make your prospect be thinking, all these things. And the same way from a kind of a software point of view, we would see it as from a UX user experience point of view. Reduce the number of questions in our users' heads. So basically, you don't want this something. Well, should I click on this button, or should I save this, or what way should I add this custom field, or what way will I configure it? We've got to reduce the number of questions in people's heads. And so we try to bring that from our product, but also the philosophy of sales. And when you're dealing with your prospects, and it tries to come out in the content we're producing as well, a lot of it is about, portraying your company, giving people the right information to reduce the number of questions in their head. It'll both help with, in the aspect of sales, but also for us and our software and people being able to use it. Reduce the number of questions so they can, you can focus on your sales actions and not get bogged down with software. And your prospect can actually, focus on what you're trying to sell them without having all these extra questions floating about the decision process that they're actually, they're in, whether they realize it or not.
Mm-hmm. So when someone, you talked about initial customers sort of being sales by business owner, you've progressed past that.
Yeah.
So
that's a really bad market, Andy. Because you know what happens?
Well, business owners don't like to sell, for one.
Well, no, what happens is they, you give a tool to a business owner, and then if they make some extra sales with your software, they get too busy to actually use it, so they get too busy they just, things start cracking. So we've moved the product away from that market. It's not really a good market for us.
So who are you focused on these days?
It's small sales teams, but it's definitely sales teams we're targeting. And that's where real value of CRM systems comes into. I've got a brother in sales. He runs a small business, and everything is in his old Nokia phone. You won't believe it.
Yeah,
I'm not even
actually,
saying he stores anything in his phone. He knows the numbers he knows. He can just type them in. He doesn't even need to store those. But everything comes through him, and he doesn't really need it. It's a real value when you've got a small team and you've got multiple stakeholders on both sides. So you're selling into a company who has, there's 2 or 3 stakeholders. You might have the CFO needs to look at the pricing. The CTO might actually, want to check out your technology or whatever it is. And from your side, then you might have, multiple, supporting staff for your sales effort.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's where a CRM system really comes of value, because the information in there is vital for people to actually review, make decisions, whether to push more onto a sale or whether to keep going or whether to say, okay, listen, it doesn't look like we're going to get that. And being able to see that quickly and easily and consistently is key. And so we've moved it. It has been some re-architecture in the system and everything like that, but we've always kept true to our main system, which is our main kind of ethos is that one page that you work from all day, which is just basically a stream of contacts with their next action. And when we started with that, we believed that's what our system should always stand for. That's where the pain comes from when you try to make it, relevant for bigger teams. Sometimes I feel, I don't know whether you have that game much in the US, a game called Kerplunk. Do you know Kerplunk?
I don't.
Do you have that one where you pull out the straws and the marbles fall down?
It's very possible. It's possible. I'm not aware of it.
I feel like, that our action stream is like that, but it's been looked at from multiple sides and everybody has multiple actions. And that one contact is like, this system that floats up in a central kind of tube, but it's a 3D. I see our system has moved to 3D when we try to include teams. So,
well, one thing you do that's kind of interesting, is that as you don't see it on a lot of CRM systems, is you talk about you put action sort of into a what do you call it, like a locked loop system. So if you're not if it's not relevant to what you're working on now, you just don't see it.
Yeah, it's back to the thing of it. You could have put a huge effort into a sales action. Put together a brilliant proposal. It looks slick. It does all the business, and you click send and you walk away. And that's just a real pity you didn't just take that extra 10 seconds after probably given 3 hours doing this proposal. You didn't give an extra 10 seconds at the very end of it to decide right now what is the next action. And so that's a pity. So that's the lock loop is what we say, okay, once you complete that action, which was a 3-hour huge effort to do a proposal, and you just went on to somebody else instead of saying, okay, listen, this person was in a rush to get this proposal, so maybe they're at a decision point and I should call them back tomorrow morning. And you just take that extra 10 seconds to make that decision. And then, tomorrow morning, you're going to get an email from OnePageCRM saying, top of the list, you got to call this person and follow up with them, because, you may have been just so tired from all the work you did, and you just kind of say, oh my God, I better get to this admin work. I better do something else, or, whatever it is. But basically you need to stay focused. So that whole thing about, when you decide the next action is, and you put the date to it, in our system, it goes down and it floats to the top when action is required again. And so even when you do that action, we force you again to say, well, okay, what is the next one? And you keep doing it. So basically what we're doing is you're in this perpetual loop of floating to the top, do the action, set the next date. It goes down to where that date is sequentially, and it eventually floats back up to the top again. So it's this locked loop. I think we called it in some of our content, or a perpetual loop. Sometimes I think about it in my head. And it just keeps going until you either get that sale over the line, or, there's something else stops it. But the term, I played a lot of sport, and your manager would always say to you, you leave it on the pitch.
Right.
You leave it on the field, I guess, whatever you call it. We call it a pitch here in Ireland. Like, the
soccer pitch, yes.
Soccer pitch, yeah. So
football pitch,
if you leave everything on the pitch, you can walk away and be quite happy that you give it your all. And so we try and help the salesperson to make sure that they've given it all. That they didn't kind of go, oh my God, I lost that sale. I should have probably phoned them, 2 days later, and it's now gone 2 weeks, and they're, they've drifted. Some other salesperson has kind of, stole the sale, or, got in ahead of us or something like that. So we try to make sure that, they leave it all on the pitch. There was no way they could have done any better, because they were proactive and they were upfront about their decisions, and they focused on what was the most important thing for that prospect every time.
Well, and I think that's the really key thing, is that, again, compared to other systems, they're sort of databases, and there's some automation, machine learning, tools that are suggesting things to do. But as you talk about, is by taking everything else out of view except that which they need to do right now, there's an element of focus that is really needed for most salespeople, right? Is because they can be working on so many things, they can get really sort of scattered and unfocused. And I see this all the time, and I have to guard against it myself even, is that here you've got something that's just saying, this is all you have to worry about right now, this moment, this one thing. Yeah. Get this done, then you can worry about the next thing.
I think a lot of it came from my mom. She used to say, when she'd give you a job, when you're doing that, you don't have to do anything else. And that's, so true. Or she had lots of these sayings that, and a job done right is done twice. They still ring in my head. I mean, like when I'm...
A job done right is done twice, meaning?
So it's like... if you only do a half job, somebody's going to come back to you and ask you to do it again. So you're going to end up doing it right the second time anyway. So you might as well do it right the first time.
Right? Okay, got it.
Yeah.
You should name the system after your mom.
Yeah, I know. She was a great woman.
7 kids, yes, by definition.
Yeah. That's an Irish family for you.
Yeah, well, and you definitely had the youngest child syndrome, based on what she's saying. Give it to Micah; he'll find a way to get around it. Yeah,
an easy way to get out of it.
Yeah, that's
an easy way to do it. Yeah.
I was the youngest. I had the exact same thing. I think that came from, not as much parental oversight, right? They were pretty much done after the first 3. So in my case, as my siblings always said, I always had it easy. But I had a chance to be a little more creative.
Come underneath the radar, yeah.
Yeah, because they weren't expecting me to follow the rules because they were tired of enforcing them.
Yeah, no, that's certainly true.
All right, so then, sort of last thing then is this thing you call your nudge. So give an example of what that is.
I guess, I think you might have asked me earlier about how did the system come about. I mean, like, I was trying to increase sales in my small business. Mm-hmm. And so I started looking at CRM systems, and I wasn't happy with them. But I even at that point, I wasn't like, oh yeah, that's it. I have to build one of these CRM systems. I did started to read blogs and stuff like that on some sales gurus. And they were on about, I would probably Google the words how to increase sales, or, these terms, and after an hour, your search terms change a bit. But I was increasingly coming across the same kind of message. To increase sales, you increase sales actions. Our sales activity and sales, there was different wording, but to me, they meant actions. Okay, there's actions. So don't get lost with bigger picture stuff. you have to get in, you roll up your sleeves and you do sales actions. And these sales actions were, when I started looking at the examples of them or whatever like that, I was wondering, like, you could look at bigger picture and you could do whatever. But when you knuckle down to see what they are, they were small, very small, physical, like, not, I don't know what you call them physical, but they were very, small things that you can just do, tangible activities. Yeah, like in there phone calls, sending brochures, setting up small, quick meetings and everything like that. I could see is that, okay, so all what they're doing is actually building trust. And yeah, you could feel, I don't know, there's different parts of the world, but I know in Ireland, we have to believe in the person we're buying from. And sometimes you'll get a warm, fuzzy feeling in your tummy that this is the person to go with because, the pricing is similar to the competition. They seem to be, similar enough products, but then you go, your tummy gets this warm, fuzzy feeling. Yeah, that's the person I will deal with. And that usually comes from building up trust. And when I went down from the thing to how to increase sales, how to build trust, how to do all them things, they all come back to a lot of small interactions with your prospect. It doesn't make a difference the size of the interaction, the amount of effort you went through. It's actually nearly the consistency. I will ring you next Thursday with the updated pricing. You ring next Thursday. You do not fail on that promise. They're tiny promises. It's just a phone call, and it probably is just a price thing that you can deliver it in 30 seconds on the phone. But you follow up with that phone call on the Thursday, and you deliver that new pricing thing. And it's a tiny, tiny sales action. And so I just kind of started to call them nudge. You would feel that a 30-second phone call to give somebody with an updated pricing or something like that doesn't feel like a giant step in the sale. To me, I started seeing them as nudges that keep the sale moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I found. I think I even called them a micro nudge at the start. And then someone said to me, listen, a nudge is actually quite small anyway. Why are you calling it a micro nudge? This is the guy who was reading my first ebook that I wrote. And he said, why are you calling them micro nudges? They're just nudges. And I said, okay, sorry, I'll drop the micro part. So right. Yeah, they were just like, because of when I started reading all these sales blogs and stuff like that, it just felt like they're tiny things. And I said, is that how you increase sales? You just do all these little tiny things? And I guess that's what it is. It's these tiny little nudges that increase the trust factor and eventually gets to that point where somebody, yes, they're making decisions based on informed information choices or good solid technical reading, whatever it is. But there is always that element as well. Sure. I trust this person. He said, she would ring me at that time.
Well, the tiny promises.
All building up. Tiny promises they're building up. And that's where the nudges came out of, or the micro nudges that got shortened.
Yeah. Fantastic habit for people to be into. Yeah. All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell folks how they can find out more about OnePage CRM or connect with you.
Yeah, so it's basically it's on OnePageCRM.com. And that's spelled ONE, not the number one, but ONE page CRM.com. And you can sign up for a free trial for 21 days. Just takes a few seconds to sign up, and we start you off inside there. Again, it's just start adding some prospects and setting next actions, and don't worry about anything else in the system. That's all it takes.
Perfect.
So everything else comes in its own time. Thank you very much.
Hey, well, thank you, Michael. And friends, thank you for spending time with us today. Remember, join us again tomorrow. We'd really appreciate it. Until then, also really appreciate if you go to iTunes, subscribe to this podcast, leave a review. Love to hear what you have to say, either good or bad. And thanks again for joining me. Until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone.